Hello everyone, my name is Philip, and welcome back to Phasing Forward. Yeah, this one's coming out a little bit late. I don't care. So we've just been hard at work on other stuff. Danganronpa 1 review. So because of that, we're just releasing this video a little bit late. I apologize for that. But, you know, at least we're getting to it. Hopefully this comes out before episode 5 of What If comes out. If it doesn't, then oh well. Kat over on Zenith and Crew doesn't really care if they release an episode late, so why should we? So, but with that being said, joining me, of course, like always, is Zen herself.
I blame Monokuma. Monokuma is the reason for everything. Is the reason I had 16 fucking recordings for Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc. I'm finally done. It's done. Damn you, Monokuma. You suck, Monokuma.
God, that's such a, and it's like we've been like working on that video for such a long time. It's not helped that like we've had so much shit going on in real life that like we've had to like push that video like back further and further and further and further. But it's finally coming out. Hopefully it'll be out by the end of the month. I'll be damned if it doesn't come out by the end of the month. But at least we're moving on. But we're not here to talk about Danganronpa, Dang It Grandpa, Danganronpa Mango Tango. No, we're here to talk about What If.
Danganronpa 2.
No, that's...
We're here to talk about the sequel.
No, that's for fucking... Leave it for January or February, whenever the fuck that video comes out. But, yeah. So, with that being said, we're here to discuss episodes 3 and 4 of What If. And, I guess we just jump into it. Because, again, like I said last time, unlike the other series, there's nothing really, like, to talk about in terms of, like, an overarching, like, plot. Well, I guess there is an overarching element to discuss when we get to episode 4. But we'll talk about that when we discuss episode 4. Whereas, this time around, we, for What If, essentially, we can just jump into the episodes because there is no... like major thing to talk about, at least yet, in regards to overarching plot elements. So with that being said, let's just jump straight into episode 3 with what if the world lost its mightiest heroes? What did you think, Zen?
Well, first of all, I think it's funny because there's been memes going around about the first 2 episodes of What If are like all happy-go-lucky and triumphant. And these next 2 episodes are sad and downtrodden. It's like there's an image of a raver kid who's all candy, and then a goth right next to each other. And it's just like, yeah, these are definitely more serious. But as Nash pointed out on Twitter, a lot of What If ended with tragedy. A lot of What If ended with the things being very bad. And I like what they're doing with these 2 episodes in separating them apart. I'm glad we got like the 2 upbeat episodes before we dived into this sort of thing. But I gotta be honest, the mystery of this episode is what really got to me. And you figured it out before I did. You figured out what was going on before I did. But
yeah,
I think it was clever on how they were able to do it. I'm like thinking about, what is killing these heroes? What is happening?
It's a really good mystery.
And it's a good mystery. It keeps you watching. And I think the thing that I like about this episode is that it utilizes the shots from Iron Man 2, from Hulk, and a little bit of Thor. So it takes place in like 3 different movies. But because these movies took place back to back to back, it just deals with like the important parts of these scenes. And the key difference is everyone's dying, and it's like, I do
like how they are like making reference to the fact that like, yeah, those 3 movies really did take place like over the course of like a week, and like, and I think it works really well to like talk about the. I think it works really well for like a concept like this. Like, what if Earth lost its mightiest heroes? Because they could have like very easily like had this take place during the time of the Avengers when Loki comes down to rule, and they just all die there. But no, they actually took like a creative approach where like they all die before the Avengers, and I think that was a really good way to handle it, especially when you you know, because in the last episode we talked about, or in the last video we talked about you know, adapting, like showing like movie moments in the series and how it could affect the episodes, and I'll have more to talk about in a sec, but you finish your point first.
I just think it's interesting that what didn't work about the first one is how it relied too much on the footage from these movies, and here it's using these scenes as a catalyst to push forward this mystery, and there's enough of a balance between the movie scenes and the different scenes that this is the pacing that the first episode needed. It's very well paced, where you have, okay, we have a movie scene, then something different happens, movie scene, something different happens, and in this case, like, you know, because Thor is killed, Loki comes in and invades and takes over, and like, there are consequences that make sense for this universe, and I think it does a great job of changing things while also showing differences, showing how the movies would have gone if this were the case. And I think there's enough differences that really justify it. But again, the mystery of who's killing them is what got to me. Also, I want to say this episode is probably the one of the jokier episodes, and I loved it because a lot of people are talking about how, like, oh, you know, it's good that, like, you know, like, this is the first episode of What If, like, where we're getting into like some more tragic elements, and it's like getting darker. It's not as jokey as the other ones. So I'm like, what are you talking about? This is like the jokiest episode of all. The fucking, like, Coulson sniffing Thor's hair and saying, like, he's beautiful, sir.
Yeah, like, Fury, like, Coulson was literally sniffing a corpse there. Like, Fury, like, joking around. Oh my god, Fury has one of the best, like, this is honest to God, one of my favorite line deliveries in all of the MCU now. We're at the end. Hank Pym is like going on about, oh yeah, Hank Pym's the villain. You know, so like, he's like, Hank Pym was going on about like why he did what he did, and like Fury just turns around and he's like, so your response was to murder them? And I love the way he says that. Like, it's like, so your response was to murder them? And I love that response so much. I don't know why that got me, but to just hear Samuel Jackson like say the line like that, just Nick Fury of all characters, I just loved it.
I really like how jokey this episode is. It balances the lighthearted jokes with the tragedy of it. And again, the mystery got me. Hank Pym is the one killing everyone, and near the end, I'm like, it looks like an invisible enemy is fighting them, and I'm like, wait a second. Are they integrating the Fantastic Four? Nope. It's not the Fantastic Four, it's Hank Pym, because Hope Van Dyne was working for S.H.I.E.L.D. in this universe, and that was the change. But that's the key thing here, is that in the first two episodes, we clearly saw what the change was from the start. Here, we thought the change was everyone dying, but no, the change was that Hope Van Dyne had died in the line of duty as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, and so to get revenge, Hank Pym is murdering all the Avengers and making it look easy because he kills the Hulk gruesomely.
Yeah, I noticed that because when Nat went onto the computer and like was looking at all the S.H.I.E.L.D. files, I noticed Janet Van Dyne there, and I was like, oh, nice to see like Janet just listed there. And then she fought with Hank, although we don't know it's Hank yet. and she says hope. It's all about hope. Now I have to do a double take on that because initially I thought she said Hulk, like Hulk. It's all about Hulk, and I'm like, Hulk's dead. But so I had to do a double take on that. But she said hope, and I was like, okay. And I'm putting the pieces together in my mind. I'm like, oh, okay. That means it's the one who's doing this is either Hope herself, or it could be Hank. And the more I thought about it, like, as it was leading up to it, I was like, it makes more sense if it would be Hank, if it's, like, all about Hope. And then it turned out to be Hank. So I was like, yay! I'm non-idiot. Piece that together. Yay.
I mean, it does make sense because in the comics, Hank Pym is kind of crazy. And, you know, losing hope, I can totally see... I could totally see him doing something crazy like this. This isn't the first time this has happened. Yeah,
Hank Pym is notoriously one of the most, like, freaking asshole-ish characters in all of the in all of the Marvel universe. Like, and the movies have really toned down his assholiness. It's really helped that they made him an old man. Like, they can, like, the fact that they made him an old man really helps in, like, because you know, there are times in, like, other Marvel material where he's just like where he's just like a middle-aged adult, where it's just like, okay, dude, calm down. Like, you don't have to, like, stop being so condescending to Janet. Like, stop being, like, such a big asshole. Like, he was the one who created Ultron, like, outside the MCU. Whereas in the MCU itself, like, first of all, they give you more reason to sympathize with him because of, like, all the ways that S.H.I.E.L.D. fucked him over, essentially. But secondly, like, you know, on top of his, you know, basically on top of his assholiness, like, being kind of justified a little bit, it's also, like, he's an old man, so you can understand it more. And that's why I've always liked Hank Pym in the MCU. I think Hank Pym in the MCU has honestly been, you know, one of the more underrated characters for me. I really like him in the MCU. And you know, but it also makes sense why he would be driven to this point, because it's honestly one of those things where, you know, Hank, although he is different from, like, his other interpretations, he can, like, you know, he still like pertains a lot of the same elements of, like, other versions of Hank Pym, and because of that, you know, it only takes, like, you know, one slip up. It could take like one slip up for him to just go, like, all right, fuck it, fuck S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, they've taken literally everything from me. I'm gonna take everything from them. And I really love this twist because Hank, like, because you gotta like tread a fine line when turning a good guy into a villain, especially someone like, you know, from a family-friendly, beloved, like, series like the Ant-Man series, and, like, I think Hank Pym really works because he's a good guy, but because he is driven, like, by that bitterness, at least in the first movie, then, you know, you can understand why he would turn, like, into being a bad guy. So I really like the twist. I thought it was a really, really good twist.
I think the twist was very understandable, and I think what really works about a lot of these two episodes is that they make the villains relatable and understandable. What they're doing is wrong. You don't murder random people just to get revenge for someone who died in the line of duty. It's implied that the Winter Soldier killed her, which,
I did pick up on that. I actually, like, because someone pointed out on Twitter, I was like, ooh, oh, okay.
So yeah, like, I can certainly understand the turn, but I think what's really cool is how they use Loki against Hank, because essentially Loki issues an ultimatum. If they don't have their brother's killer in a day, they're going to take over and destroy the planet. So, okay, he figures out it's Hank Pym, he goes to Loki, but then it cuts to Fury standing in a graveyard, and it looks like he's alone. Nope, it's Loki using his powers, and they're using illusions against Hank Pym.
Yeah, I really did like that.
it shows like, oh yeah, like you could totally beat him, because it's less about the advantage that Ant-Man has is if you don't know he's coming. If you don't know he's coming, he can take you by surprise and very good for assassinations. However, it's Loki. He has an illusion. He's not just gonna come up there. So if he tries to attack you, goes right through him, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really love that final battle, because it's like, you know, because like it catches Hank like so off guard, like what the hell, how is this guy everywhere? And I really do like how you can tell it is Loki, like how he's like playing up like, I don't give a damn about any of them, like, which I thought was such a funny line. And it does. Yeah, it also does seem like a line that like Nick would say. It could be Nick, like it very much could be a line like that, like Nick would say just to provoke Hank, so he can just get under his skin. Because obviously he cares about like all his agents, like how he says like after Hank's been defeated. Also, I just really like the yellow jacket suit here. Like it's something like more so like of what the yellow jacket suit would be if Hank had actually made, because for those who don't know, the yellow jacket suit in the comics isn't like synonymous with like a villainous persona. That's basically just the suit that Hank adopts after Scott Lang becomes Ant-Man. So yeah, I just really liked seeing that suit in this episode. And yeah, I
also really gotta say the animation for these two episodes have been fantastic.
Oh yeah.
And we'll get into the next episode in a bit, but like the way they were able to show everything, and it was great. The only thing that looked a little bit off was Mark Ruffalo Hulk with the Edward Norton animation with Mark Ruffalo's voice coming out of it was a little bit weird. But
yeah, I was taken off guard. I was taken off guard by that, because I was like, holy fuck, this is so surreal. Like they kind of tried to make him look like kind of his own like thing. So it's not entirely like Mark Ruffalo. It's not entirely Edward Norton. It's just kind of like their own version of Bruce Banner. But that just kind of makes it even more weird.
I mean, it's nice to see, especially in this phase, they're acknowledging some of the movies that they don't acknowledge that much. We've seen a lot of Hulk references, you know, especially in What If, and there's references later on in other movies about like Hulk stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's really cool, and it's nice to see them like acknowledging that these events happened. And you know, I know they can't do another solo Hulk movie, but
they sure are they sure are making up for it with She-Hulk, because you know that's basically just going to be a Hulk series that like has the Hulk as a supporting character. Although I guess that is inaccurate, because they are making it like very much lean towards being a She-Hulk series, considering that it's like a lore comedy series with She-Hulk breaking the fourth wall. But I digress. They're getting Hulk stuff in there.
I don't want to give away too much, because I saw Shang-Chi today, and one of the stingers, like the mid-credit stingers, has a little bit to do with Hulk. And
I know what you're talking about.
I know
what you're talking about.
Okay.
I know what the post-credit scenes for Shang-Chi are.
So they definitely show, like, you know, Hulk's still around, Abomination's still around, but like just having these little acknowledgements from Phase 4 that the Hulk movie did happen and that it was important is big to me. It's not like massively important, but it's just nice to know that it wasn't just a waste of time watching this movie. Yeah. Even if you don't enjoy it. It's like Iron Man 3. Even if you don't enjoy it, and I enjoy Iron Man 3, these things still happen. Mm-hmm. They take part. I mean, they referenced it in Endgame. They referenced Iron Man 3 a lot in Shang-Chi. But
I mean, you kind of have to, because like Iron Man 3 was the last time we really talked about the 10 rings. So
yep.
Yeah.
So like again, they do really good world building, and like Linkara always says, the best thing you can do, don't ignore your continuity, even if it's bad. Build off it. Tell better stories with it. And having these little nods to like, oh look, here's the Incredible Hulk movie stuff. They go and they use it in the What If. They go and meet the Edward Norton Hulk, and they go and see his girlfriend, and like, there are things that I really enjoy seeing, and they're small, I know, but I think they really add to the world building of the MCU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that we're gonna be starting to see like more and more references to like Hulk stuff now that like Marvel like just legit doesn't care and will put like as much like they don't care, like, you know, if they can't make a solo movie now, like they just want to show like as much of the Hulk as possible, especially now that like they own 20th Century Fox. So it's like, well, you know, maybe it won't be too long till we get like full Hulk license back. So but yeah, I also really just enjoy seeing like all those moments from the other movies, but like now just everything going wrong and all the Avengers dying, and it's fucking great. It's fucking great. And you know, I definitely
and that ending
and that ending was really good. I kind of love how, because we've been saying how like these two episodes are just kind of like tragic, but what I love is like, you know, episode 4 is just downright tragic. Like, it's so depressing, whereas episode 3 like is more bittersweet, where it's like, yeah, all the Avengers that we know died, but like, well, okay, 5 of the 6 of them died, but it still ends with like this ray of hope where like Captain America is still yet to be like brought out of the ice, and now Captain Marvel is down on Earth. So it made me wonder like who they would really have for like an Avengers team in this timeline. So there's Captain America, there's Captain Marvel, Rhodey would still be around as War Machine, although Vision wouldn't have been made because Tony's not around now. Let's see, Falcon still probably would have been brought on board, so there's Falcon. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver would have still been around, but it's a lot, but it's kind, I don't know, maybe it's a long shot, but like Steve probably could have still, you know, brought him over to their side, but you know, it's debatable. Spidey's still a thing in this universe, so he probably joins at some point, but you know, so essentially like the numbers are like way shorter than they were before, essentially.
I mean, they still have Phil, son of Cole. I mean, you know, they have Phil Coulson, so I mean, it's a trade-off.
Yeah, instead of Black Widow and Hawkeye, now we have Maria Hill and Phil Coulson entering the Avengers as the two regular human characters.
But yeah, I like that. I like that it's not just about Hank Pym part of the episode. It has consequences because Thor dies, Loki comes in, and he essentially takes control of Earth. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't destroy it, but he's like, I'm going to subjugate you and rule because I'm now Prince of Asgard. And mm-hmm. You know, things are very, very different. And after seeing the Loki series, it's all like people are saying, oh, this is the Vote Loki timeline.
Yeah, I have no doubt that there was a timeline similar to this where, you know, where Loki was trying to like, where it's basically all the same except Loki's running for president. And then the TVA comes in and is like, ha, 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 you're not meant to win here, fuck off. And then they pruned him. But yeah, this episode
I was president of the United States.
But yeah, this episode was really good. It was a really, really fun episode. It's, well, I guess fun's no, it was fun. Fuck it. It was a fun episode. It's the next episode that's not quote unquote fun, but very good. It's probably one of the more it's probably the most well-paced one. Although, personally speaking, I still like episode 2 a little bit more, just a smidge more than episode 3. I think my favorite episode right now is a tie between 2 and 4. I'm gonna have to kind of sit on it more to see where I lie at the end of the series. But
it's really hard to say because the thing is, I think 3 is the best paced, but 2 and 4 have the biggest emotions. Mm-hmm. And they made me feel these feelings, man.
Yeah, like it's like episode 2 and 4 just like have the like more character, like more character, like not development, but more character like set pieces and like more like exploration of character, that like it makes me like them more than episode 3, which is still great, and it's probably like one of the more like well put together episodes. But yeah, and I just love how we go from episode 3, which is we go from like episode 2, which is like all happy and like this is like a good outcome, then episode 3, which is tragic but ends with hope, and then episode 4, which is, you know, just all depressing. And now, coming up, episode 5 is the Marvel Zombies episode. So, like, you know,
I think they did a really good job of pacing it. And while I do think episode 1 is still the weakest, it's not because of the Agent Carter, it's just because of the pacing. But they did a good job easing you in, that big emotion, then some really enticing mystery, and then something really tragic, and then Marvel Zombies. Like, they're doing a good job with What If.
Yeah, What If is going great so far. It's my worries from the first episode have been like almost completely alleviated at this point. It's like, okay, that was kind of it's really like, it really feels like they had like all these ideas, and then they just had the idea of, oh, freaking buff Peggy Carter, she takes a super soldier serum, Captain Carter. They had the idea for her, and then they were like, okay, how do we really integrate her into stuff? It's like they wanted to get her to the point where like she goes to the future so they can have her for the series finale, whatever that. I don't even know what that what if prompt would even be, like the multiverse episode that it seems like they're going to be doing at the end of the series. But we'll just have to see in that for that. But you know, but it felt like they want to get her to that point, but as a result, they had to stick too much to the first Avenger. And it's kind of the outlier of the series, because while everything else gets to like delve into like interesting plots that we wouldn't otherwise see in the main timeline, you know, the Captain Carter episode just kind of has to stick to the formula, which, you know, it's kind of the outlier for me. But yeah, episode 4. Episode 4 is titled "What If Doctor Strange Lost His Heart Instead of His Hands?" And fuck, this one's depressing. Like, this one's really goddamn depressing.
I adore this episode, and I think this is something that works really, really well, because it takes place all within Doctor Strange, but it focuses on one point of Doctor Strange.
Well, specifically, it takes place after Doctor Strange, which I thought was a godsend for the episode, because they could have just had it like interweave throughout the plot and just have a lot of the plot beats be the same, except the final third of it different. But no, they explain all of Doctor Strange's plot at the beginning, and they explicitly say that this episode takes place after the events of the movie, which I thought was great, because it makes this episode feel like a mini continuation of the movie, like a mini kind of what if sequel, as opposed to like an alternate take on the movie, which I thought was really good.
And but mostly what I'm talking and what I'm getting at is the biggest change is he was not essentially in this. He took his girlfriend out during that trip, and because of that, she died. And that led him to the Mystic Arts instead of losing his hands. And that one event from Doctor Strange is the catalyst for this entire thing. The best way I found to describe this is, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Time Machine.
Nope, but I've seen people bring it up with this episode, yeah.
This is basically the time machine where guy comes in, his girlfriend dies, and he builds a time machine, but it keeps happening in different ways, and it keeps on happening. No matter what he does, no matter where he goes, she dies, because it's an absolute point in time. So he goes into the future to figure out a way why time travel doesn't work, and in the future they're like, oh, time travel doesn't exist. And it branches from there. But this is the basic idea and setup, and the first 10 minutes of this episode, I was crying. I was sobbing, because it does the exact same thing. It, again, another comparison is Steins Gate. if you've ever played or watched Steins Gate.
No spoilers, please.
It's no spoilers, but it's the same type of feeling. It's like you're trying to save the life of this one person, and no matter what you do, you can't. The difference here, though, is that the Ancient One explains that this is an absolute point in time, and you can't change it. If you try to change it, you'll create a paradox, and that will destroy the universe. But this version of Doctor Strange is so grief-stricken that he fights the Ancient One, who splits the timeline so that they could live two separate lives. A Doctor Strange that goes down this dark path and absorbs the power of other creatures in order to stop this absolute point in time, and a good Doctor Strange to stop him. And there's a lot of points that I really want to latch on to, because this episode to me had so many powerful moments. Mm-hmm. I think one of the big ones for me was he goes to this lost library.
Hey, fucking motorbike, can you fuck off in the background? I'm doing a recording here, thank you. It's that fucking guy. It's not a guy. It's not a guy on a bike. It's freaking this guy, this asshole in this car. Like every night, I swear, goes drag racing around the block. It's insane. Anyway, go
on. He goes to the lost library to find knowledge, and he meets this guy there, who is the keeper of the lost library, and he explains to Strange, so much of grief. It's just the entire conversation with this person, and I don't think he ever was given a name. I'm trying to remember, but he called Strange Armani, and I loved that.
He does. I think his name was Obe. Was his name? Because I do know he.
Obe.
Yeah. Let me just double check here. On
I'm
phone.
blanking on the name, but the entire conversation.
Yeah,
about
Obe.
Obe. No person is worth this risk. Just live your life. Go out. There are things worth living. And then later he goes back and he finds him on his deathbed, and he's like, no, I'm gonna die because that is the plan for things. People have to die. And it's all about dealing with grief. He's just saying look, it's hard. You love someone, but all things have to die, and we all have to move on and pass at some point. And that entire stuff with the library was so powerful, especially seeing how Doctor Strange changes from this bright, jovial person to dark rings under his eyes and more bestial. Mm-hmm. And that's really powerful. But also,
sorry, I'm gonna jump in here because I haven't given my thoughts yet, and you're basically covering the entire thing. So yeah, you're hitting a lot of points, because I also really fucking love this episode. I think it's one of the most powerful episodes of the series so far. I would even dare say it's the most powerful episode. There's a part of me that likes episode 2 still the most, but there's also a part of me that says, no, this one's the best. It's really hard. I'm gonna have to wait and see how I feel by the end of the series, but it's a fucking terrific episode. I think I like you said, those first 10 minutes where we see him, I think one very big thing is in the movie proper, Stephen Strange was very narcissistic, and when he loses his hands, he goes completely off the rails, and Christine Christine goes up to him, and it's there are other things in this world that you can that you can take solace in, or that you can take joy in, and he's what, what, you, and he very much didn't care about Christine in the main timeline. Well, it's more so that he didn't care about her, but he was so fucking he was so freaking, what's the word I'm looking for? Not guilt-stricken, because he's not guilt-stricken about losing his own fucking hands, but
he was so depressed.
He was so depressed that he was so depressed that he was basically pushing everything out of his life, because he's now lost this one thing which to him ruined his life, and he can't like bear with it anymore. So essentially he pushes Christine away in the movie, even if he, you know, does truly care about her, whereas here he, you know, he actually cares more. Like, because the main what if is that he didn't lose his hands and that he lost Christine. But I think that in of itself is the true what if. It's like here, he's still very much, you know, narcissistic, and like he's so like arrogant, but he actually, but the big what if, that's all, folks. I'm sorry, I'm stuttering a lot. But, you know, the big what if here is that he has a much bigger connection to Christine. It's more so that I'd say the big point with him is that he is still arrogant, but he isn't as narcissistic as he was. Actually, I wouldn't say that he is narcissistic just in general, because narcissism is Tony's big fault, whereas I would say Steven's big fault is arrogance, and how, like, because they have brought up arrogance in regards to Stephen Strange a lot, because even in the original movie, you know, he feels really guilty. It's like, oh, like, because it's like, oh, I swore an oath to protect as many people as I can, and I've just killed a man. I don't want to do that again. So I wouldn't even say he's narcissistic. He's just a very arrogant person. He does very much care for others, and we see that in this, like, you know, split timeline where he has this deeper connection to Christine, and because of that, it leads him down this darker path. Because, like, you know, with him losing his hands, it's himself. You know, it's he lost something of his own, whereas in this timeline he lost another person, where that takes, you know, his depression from the original movie and it amplifies it, because not only did he lose something, like, but he lost another person, which, as we see from the original movie, he's horrified by. He doesn't want to lose people, and so you mix these two elements together, and it creates a much darker timeline for Stephen Strange, and that's what I really love about the episode. It takes what we know about Doctor Strange from his own movie, and it expands upon it, and I love it. This is the kind of Doctor Strange shit that I am so here for. Like, Doctor Strange isn't the best movie in the MCU, but it's one that I have an incredibly big soft spot for, because there's so much that you can do with Doctor Strange as a character that people don't give him credit for. And I love that movie. It's honestly one of my favorite MCU origin movies, and this movie just expands on it brilliantly. Also, side note, I love how the one who, you know, I love how Steven's girlfriend is Christine Palmer, and she's the one who dies. And when you see Steven in the bar, like, drinking, and he sees the report of Christine having died, the one who is reporting on it is Christine Everhart. So, like, or Christine Evergreen, I forget her name, but it's the reporter from the Iron Man series. Yeah, Christine Everhart. It's the reporter from the Iron Man series. So it's like Christine reporting on Christine's death. That's just a little funny coincidence there.
I just think, like, Stephen Strange is an interesting character, much like Tony. This was a character that they took, like, we want to make you like someone who isn't likable, someone's faults. And Tony is very narcissistic and self-centered, but that's because he's burdened with this knowledge, and a lot of it is just trying to make his brain stop racing, and I can relate to that. And his arc is learning to be a better human, where Stephen Strange, he was arrogant. He was very good at one particular thing, neurosurgeon, and he didn't want to help just anyone. He's like, oh, anyone can do this. I want a challenge. I can do that. And his arrogance was his downfall. And because of that, he learned humility, and he can change and grow. But it shows here, like, if he was a better person, just slightly, if he had this connection, he still would be the same person. He still would have the same faults, and falling from grace, not losing something of himself made him a better person. Losing someone else turned him into a monster. Although I really love the scene where they go to the good Doctor Strange, and he looks to Wong and says, I want to save her, but I don't want to lose you too. And Wong's one of my favorite goddamn characters.
Yeah,
it goes to show.
Yeah, I really do love that connection between, or that friendship between Wong and Steven. I really would love to see more of it because, yeah, Wong's slowly growing into like one of my favorite characters too, and I cannot wait to see him in Shang-Chi. And that's not a spoiler because they for some reason put that in the trailers. I don't know why.
Yep, he is in a lot of Shang-Chi, and man, Wong is awesome. He's awesome. I really do enjoy how they build the dynamic between these two characters, and something I want to touch upon in the trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home. A lot of people are criticizing, oh well, why is Steven, giving in to Peter's demands? He should know that this is dangerous. He's arrogant. Remember, that's his flaw.
Yeah, because he thinks
he's the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, he can. It's that arrogant part of him still coming back because he was in his own origin movie. It's like he wants a challenge. He wants to be able to help out someone he wants to be able to help out someone from a near impossible situation. Peter is in that near impossible situation, so he wants to, and also I'm pretty sure at this point Steven just wants to help the kid out after all they went through in Infinity War and Endgame. So I think that just there are ways in which they can botch it up, but I do think that it's in character for Strange to do it because he, as far as he knows, if he does the spell right, then nothing bad will happen. And even so, given a task like this, he wants to challenge himself in this way, and I think it's perfectly in character for Steven to do it. So yeah, again, there are still ways in which they can fuck it up, but we won't know till we see the movie. And right now, I'm not against the concept itself. So yeah, I understand people's points, but all I'm saying is also just wait for the movie to come out.
And on that note, though, Doctor Strange versus Doctor Strange. Mm-hmm. This animation, this fight, is glorious. Yeah, this is what I wanted. These past two episodes have had really increasingly great animation, but Stephen Strange versus Stephen Strange, showing their different strengths. He knows himself, so he knows how he's gonna fight. The problem is just that Evil Strange is stronger, absorbing all those magical creatures. And I love how he uses the shadows and
it makes me so glad that we have had it confirmed that there are going to be more animated MCU shows, not just the second season of What If, but we're going to get just more animated content within the canon of the MCU period. And I love that. I absolutely love that. I think that it could really work for the MCU, now that they're finally jumping into it. This is something that the Arrowverse was doing ages ago, and it worked fine enough for them with I forget the character's name, but they had both Green Arrow and Flash pop up in that animated series. And I feel like they could absolutely do more animated content here. It doesn't have to be big must-see parts of the MCU. What If is probably going to be one of the more I don't want to say throwaway because it's a really fucking good series, but it's probably going to be one of the more you don't really need to see this series kind of properties of the MCU, within the main phases, but it still works terrifically in terms of slotting it into the MCU. And I'm glad that they're starting to move more towards animated content, because animated content is fucking terrific, and there should really be more of a high demand for it, honestly.
And on that note, let's not disparage live action. I've heard a lot of people say, well, live action can't do it, animation can do, it's an inferior medium. Look. Yeah. Each medium is dependent on the people who work on it. I think Doctor Strange as a movie is one of the best visual films I have ever seen because of the way it utilizes stuff. But like when we see stuff like in Endgame with the Ashura form of Doctor Strange or Infinity War, you can do really amazing things. You just have to be creative.
Yeah, I'm getting really fucking sick of people who think they're like such cinema connoisseurs to where they're like, oh, like, you know, all this CGI, no practical effects. It's like, Jesus Christ, the MCU is like going overboard when making everything like a CGI mess. It's like, fuck, I saw people saying like that the portal scene from Endgame looked like a PS2 game. It's like, okay, fuck off. Like, I know that you're trying.
Have you played a PS2 game lately?
It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Shut the hell up. It's honestly like, people like giving like such shit to CG artists, like seeing the amazing stuff that like CG artists can do with these movies. Then it's like, oh, it looks like a PS2 game. Like, fuck right off. Like, you like it's
clearly you haven't played a PS2 game because
it's like some criticisms of the CG in these movies can be justified. Like the CG in Black Panther does not look good. Like that final battle between T'Challa and Killmonger, you know, with the two Black Panther suits, that looks like ass. I don't think it devalues, you know, like the meaning of that climax, but it's, you know, but I will agree, the CG there does look poor. I'm not saying you can't criticize the CGI in Marvel movies or just in blockbusters in general. I'm just saying it's like, don't take an overly just don't take an overly CGI movie in general as a bad thing. I take bad CGI as a bad thing. Not if a movie has mostly CGI, I'm not just going to be like, oh, but there's no practical effects, so they just got lazy with it. No, because like, you know, are you saying that even if a movie has like the most realistic looking CGI and like it looks so mind-blowingly good that it's still gonna be like, it's still not gonna be good enough because it's just because it's all CGI? Like, no, I don't think that that's fair to the movies, especially the fucking CGI artists who they get in to work on the movies. It's like, and I know for some people, you know, it's just a them thing where they get taken out of the movie if they notice like, okay, this is clearly CG, and for some people they can't help that, and that's understandable. But to just write off an entire movie because, oh, fucking, you know, it's mostly CG, that's where I draw the line. It's like, okay, unless the CG is legitimately bad and not like, oh, it's noticeable. Like, of course, fucking 50 million portals coming out, like, is gonna be noticeable. Like, that's not real. Like, you know, that's what ticks me off personally. But anyway, we're on.
I still think the portal scene is impressive, but my point is that
it's one of my favorite scenes in the MCU. It's probably like top 3 for me.
My point is that there is no inherently superior or inferior medium.
Mm-hmm.
And while certain things are suited for a different medium, like, you know, anime, stretchy arms, I still don't think One Piece will look good as a live action. I don't think it's an inferior medium, you know? So when I see Doctor Strange in the MCU live action, and I see all the cool stuff he can do, I'm like, oh, let's see what he can do in animation. And the animation kicked it out of the park too. I like them both. I think they did a fantastic job. And it just goes to show that when you care about your property, with an example, Shang-Chi, where they clearly cared about the martial arts, they clearly had these people doing the martial arts, and even if there weren't CG, it would still look amazing, but it looks even better because of all the CG. Like, you get people who care about your product, and you get something like this, where Doctor Strange versus Doctor Strange really damn good.
Yeah.
And they show, like, he fights against the strength by putting the protection spell and by being creative, and he destroys the cape, and I like how they utilize the different fighting styles. Like, Evil Strange is more bestial, and
yeah, seeing
just-
Strange, because and the official name for Evil Strange is essentially Doctor Strange Supreme. So, and just seeing Strange Supreme's, downward spiral, and seeing like that kind of transformation in his appearance, and like how they progress with it, it's really fucking good. It's a really fucking good episode, and really pulls at your heartstrings. I like how they went, like, no hopeful ending, no bittersweet ending, no, just this is downright tragic, which I think this is like the, other than Infinity War, which was obviously going to get a sequel, I like how this is like the first, like, outright tragic ending in, like, the MCU main canon anyway. So I haven't seen, like, a lot of the other TV shows that now may or may not be canon, but I really fucking love this ending. It's really good. And the Watcher, we haven't really touched on the Watcher. They teased twice in this episode, like, something that we all kind of know he's eventually going to do, and that is they're teasing him getting involved. And, he says, I could step in here, I could help him, but if I do that, then it'll fuck up things for other universes. I can't interfere. And, like, at the end there, he's like, I would love to punish you. I would love to just take you singularly and, like, punish you, but I can't. I can't interfere with it all. And it's great. I fucking love this episode.
I love the performance that they gave for Uatu, because, like, it's very clear you can totally understand Doctor Strange's motivations, but he's dooming the entire universe. But with Uatu, like, yeah, he has the power to interfere, and he only interferes if it's damaging to every other universe. Because he says, I can't sacrifice every universe for this universe.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense. It's, like, the performance is really, really well done. And the fact that he's watching and Doctor Strange hears him, and we actually, like, sees him again, he's trying to force everything back, and he's saying, I'm sorry, I didn't want this to happen, can you please stop it? It's like, no, I can't, because you're dooming the multiverse.
Please help my universe, please help my world. The Watcher, sorry, we don't do that here.
It's a powerful episode, because you gotta understand everyone's motivation, and I can totally get it.
And the acting's great. The acting is fantastic, especially because they get basically everyone from the movie, like, because they get Benedict Cumberbatch, they get Tilda Swinton, they get basically just everyone back from Doctor Strange for this episode, and it works tremendously well. And, like, Benedict Cumberbatch just knocks it out of the park with Strange Supreme in this episode. He's honestly terrific, and it makes me really look forward to
Supreme. The first 10 minutes of the episode, I was like, I don't know who to root for, because I know what he's gonna do is bad, but, like, he's seen this person die in front of him so many times. Like, they hammer it in. They don't say how many times it happens, but they hammer it in, and I'm just like, he's probably going nuts just from seeing her die so many times.
Yeah, it's...
And another thing I compare it to, I know not a lot of people have played this game. One of my favorite villains of all time is Caius from Final Fantasy 13-2. And Caius' whole deal is that he is forced to protect this one person. Every single timeline she dies. And he wants to end time because he's seen the person he loved dies so many times, and he can do nothing about it. And it's like, it's such a understandable motivation, because if you have the power to oversee time and you have the power to undo something, but you can't undo the one thing that makes you happy, it's big, it's powerful. I love the Time Machine. I love Steins Gate. I love this. I love when they show how desperate a character is to undo this one event.
Yeah, it's great. And that's kind of just jumping into the just concluding our thoughts for it, that just kind of sums up episode 4 in general, where it's just like, it's, seeing the downfall of this character because of how desperate they are and how blinded they are by their inability to move on. It really is the pure definition of a tragedy, and it's something that I love it. I absolutely love this episode. Like I said before, it takes what we know from the movies, and that's the best part that this series does. It takes what we know from the movies, and while it gives it a different spin, it's still the same general heart. It's still the same general heart of the character, and thoughts and themes of the characters. It's still the same general themes and character bits from those specific characters, just giving them a different twist, like we saw with T'Challa in episode 2, and like we see with Strange in this episode. It's my favorite part of What If so far, just giving us more of these characters and more of those same general kind of stories with those characters, just in a completely different way. And that's what I love about episode 4, and that kind of just sums up my opinions personally. What about you, Zen?
For these 2 episodes, I think what really works is that we really understand these characters. We give them a different setting, and we roll with it, a different premise, and we roll with it. And just seeing more of these characters. And in fact, in Phase 4 in general, we finally got a chance to breathe and see more of these characters and more what makes them tick. And I think what works about the What If scenario is that these are all characters that we kind of know, but we didn't get to delve deep enough into. And it's like, hey, what if this happened? Same kind of character, different scenario. Let's have fun with it. And I enjoy this. Episodes 1 and 2 were good. I think episode 1 was pretty good. Episode 2 was great. Really great. But episodes 3 and 4, it's compelling mystery and drama, and then powerful storytelling.
Yeah, if I had to,
2 and 4 are just powerful character pieces.
If I had to rank my favorites, it'd be 1 way at the bottom, Power Gap, then episode 3, and I'm still tossing between episodes 2 and 4. I'm gonna have to wait till, I think we'll probably do an episode ranking in the season 1 review, since I think for this series it really works because it is very because it is an anthology. It is very episodic, so yeah.
But 2 and 4 are very up there, and I think it goes without saying that the animation is kicking it out of the park, and I'm so happy to see animation represented like this, and see animation get such great battles. And it's hard to say because I love live action MCU. Yeah. Again, Shang-Chi knocked it out of the park. But we'll get to that soon. I just gotta have to fucking see the movie, which I can't do right now because we're in lockdown. Fuck me. And I'm gonna see Black Widow soon too. But just when people care about this medium, they do great things. And What If has been really, really great. I'm having a blast. I'm not a negative person. I don't know if you've gathered that, but I don't try to be overly positive in terms of, I look at faults and I acknowledge them. And if I see them, I'll point them out and we'll discuss them. But, with a lot of What If right now, it's been so drastically good. I don't have too much to say that's bad, because it's essentially, let's tell a singular story and let's have fun with it. Whereas with something like Loki or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or WandaVision, they do have their faults and we acknowledge them, but they're trying to tell a series rather than an individual story.
But yeah, those are our thoughts on episodes 3 and 4 of What If. Thank you all for joining us once again. Next time will of course be episodes 5 and 6, and we'll keep going till the end of the series. Then Black Widow and Loki Season 1 review and yada yada yada. We have a lot of stuff planned for in between What If and Hawkeye, but we'll talk more about that once we're near the end of What If. Can't wait for next time. Can't wait for Marvel Zombies, which is going to be next time, so yeah. But with that being said, thank you all for watching this video. If you did like it, then leave a like and comment. We always love feedback. We crave feedback. Give us all the feedback in the world. And until next time, I'm Philip.
I'm a kitten or something. I don't know. What if Zenith was not a bunny?
And we'll catch you all next time. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.